hold on a second. When you say you did Barney, what did you do on Barney?
I was the character. I could do the voice and I could be inside. So
Oh,
they
you're the voice.
filmed him.
Oh, you
Yeah.
were the voice, but you
Yes.
actually were inside the Barney outfit.
I wore the costume. It was
That's
filmed,
awesome.
and they filmed it at KD's studio this episode. So I was right next door, and I thought, this is my big break, man.
This episode is brought to you by the best-selling book, Rise of the Film Entrepreneur, How to Turn Your Independent Film into a Money-Making Business. Learn more at filmbizbook.com. I'd like to welcome to the show, Josh David Jordan. How you doing, Josh?
Man, I'm doing fantastic. I've been so excited to be on the show. I was like, whenever I wake up and I'm going to go on a bike ride and I check to see what apps, to see what podcasts have, the newest. I see yours. I get super pumped because it's the perfect bike ride. It's an hour around my lake and I listen to it every single time. It's like, it's the most inspiring thing to be riding your bike and listening to this podcast.
Oh, I appreciate that very much, man. And I do put out a couple of them a week.
I know. That's why I love it. Love it.
It's been my insanity for 7 years, just continuously putting out just a lot of them. But I appreciate it. I'm glad. It's always nice to hear that because, like I said many times before on the show, I just talk into a mic in a room, and you just really don't know the impact it makes on people out there. So I appreciate you reaching out and telling me about your story, about your movie, which is, it's an interesting journey, man. I'll be honest with you. So I get pitched daily for filmmakers to come on the show, and it's always got to be something special for me, because at this point we're on like episode 630 or something like that. I've heard a lot, and a lot of things have been on the show. So if they call me up and they go, "Hey man, I made a movie for $5,000," I'm like, "I made 2 movies for $5,000. It doesn't matter." Like, it's not 1991 anymore. So your story was really interesting to me, is the budget that you did, some of the interesting things that happened behind the scenes, which we'll talk about, and the quality, and it looks so gorgeous, man. So congrats on the look of that film, man, because it just, I don't see it often. I see indie films at your budget range, and I'll be honest, they look like crap. They might be good stories, they might be fun, but they don't look good. Yours looks 6 figures plus, easy. So that was one of the things that caught my eye. So that was the combination of a bunch of stuff that got you on the show.
Yeah. That's the film. That's the film. This World Won't Break. You just described it in a nutshell. And it was really hard, Alex, when I would go to, as I'm pitching for our next film, and people were like, we loved your movie. It was gorgeous. And I was like, yeah. They said, what do you need for this one? Another 2-3 mil? And I'm like, million? And I'm like, oh, we did this for $36K. And they kind of shut down. And they're like, oh, and they're not really interested. I'm like, it's so bizarre in this world that we live in of like indie film. If you can do it, I'm like, imagine what I could do for $500,000. But it seems like it doesn't work that way for some reason. As for me, for right now, it hasn't worked out that way.
So
catch me too.
When you talk to investors, just tell them, yes, 2 million, please.
Yes,
that's
exactly
all
how much it costs. Yeah,
I need 2 million. Exactly what I have budgeted. 2 million cash. When can we start? Don't ever tell them the budget if you can help it.
I know. I've learned my lesson. Believe me, I've learned a lot of lessons.
I would have. If I was coaching you, I would have told you, listen, tell everybody it costs $250,000, $500,000. Easy.
Yeah, put that in the revise of your book, because that's gold right there already. We're not even 5 minutes in, you're already giving gold.
But it's so true, because again, when investors are looking at you like, oh, he only made it for 30. They don't look at it as like, look at the value. They look at it as like, oh, they're not real. They're not a serious situation. And that's just short-sightedness. You know, I mean, look at Robert Rodriguez. He, imagine if they would have been short-sighted with him.
That's the thing. We live in a different world now. So.
Oh, and then some. Don't get me started. Don't get me started on that. It's just, the 90s was a great time, and it's ruined us all. It
has. I'm a kid of the 90s for sure.
So first question, brother, how did you get started in the business?
Yeah, so going way back, my dad was a traveling evangelist. He still is a preacher, and me and my brother were on the road with him, 3-piece suits. We would open up these white tent revivals, and so I grew up in the South and the Midwest, and so like LA and New York were so foreign, right? This is pre-internet, this is pre-everything. It's just blockbusters, and I wasn't even watching foreign films because how could you? Especially traveling. We were homeschooled on the road. But my dad was a cinephile. And so he made sure that when we were going to these little small towns, we would go see movies. And the motels that we stayed in, we'd stay up late and watch TV. And that got me going. And then his favorite film is It's a Wonderful Life. And I remember like the way it made him feel. I was like, I want to do that. I want to make that. But being a 16-year-old kid in the South, it's impossible. Pre-internet, like digital cameras. Just so I go to the library and I would get books on like Alfred Hitchcock or whoever it was, and it just seemed like a fable to me. Mm-hmm. And then I knew that acting, they were doing school plays. That's as close as I could get, and maybe I could be an actor and then go off to Hollywood. So I did acting. I still do acting, and I was in University of Missouri, and I was doing theater, and I was miserable because I wasn't making films. I just didn't know I wanted to create and tell the story, not really just be a day player, a day or two, and then you go home and your hands aren't in it. And I went to Dallas, Texas, and started going to Katie Acting Studio, which was for film and television. And they walked in one day. It was one of my first days there. And they were like, "Hey, how tall are you?" I said, "I'm 6'2". They go, come with us." So at the time, Barney was a pretty big deal, the dinosaur. And he was going through contract negotiations, and they were trying to frazzle him. So I got to do one episode of Barney. And I thought, this is it. I'm in the TV world. Well, he renegotiated his contract, and he went off and did his own thing.
Hold on a second. When you say you did Barney, what did you do on Barney?
I was the character. I could do the voice, and I could be inside. So
you're the voice.
Him.
Oh, you were the voice, but you actually were inside the Barney outfit.
I wore the costume. It was
That's
filmed,
awesome.
And they filmed it at Katie's studio. This episode, so I was right next door, and I thought, this is my big break, man.
I'm gonna be Barney.
I mean, and I'll take anything at this point,
dude. Money is money. Cash is.
Yeah. Everyone loves Barney.
No, they actually just released a documentary that there's like,
true.
I hate Barney, or like, why do you hate me, or something like that. And when, by the way, my daughters saw that walk by, and they're like, "Why do people hate Barney?" I go, "Don't sing the song. Don't sing. Don't sing this." And I'm not gonna do. Please don't do it now, because I'm not gonna do it to our listeners. Because once it gets in the ear, it's an earworm, and it's done. It's over. Yeah. So that's why.
Crazy.
That's an amazing story.
Yeah, so that didn't work out. But I kept pursuing it, and I was going on commercials. I was in a commercial for Wingstop with a chimpanzee and Troy Aikman. I thought, maybe I can do this. And I only did like 2 or 3 of those. And then I got the call that I got a part on Scrubs, the TV show. So I fly to LA, and I'm in the episode, My Choosiest Choice of All. I had a bunch of lines, and I was like, well, this is it, because that day I was coming in, Michael J. Fox was leaving. So I got to meet Michael J. Fox, and it was, I was in Hollywood. I was in Hollywood on that day, on those 2 days. And then, the pumpkin happens, and I fly back to Dallas, Texas. And then here I am bartending when my episode airs, in a bar, bartending, watching my episode. And I was like, I don't think this is working out. I don't know what's happened, but it's not really working out.
There's a disconnect here.
Yeah. And so, so I'm a part of the Okra House Theater here in Dallas, which has Matthew Posey as the artistic director. And he's been in Magnificent Seven, No Country for Old Men, True Lies, with Pierce Brosnan on Sons. And I've been there for 10 years, and a little more satisfying. There's no auditions. Matt calls you on the phone and says, do you want to be in this next play? I'm writing it for you. And I took that to heart, and I was like, wait a minute. I'm surrounded by actors. I'm surrounded by people who have cameras. What if I write for everyone and we just make this film? And so that's how that part started.
Wow, man. So I always like asking this question, because there's so many people listening who are in your boat, because not everyone's in LA or New York or Atlanta or in any of these big hubs where a lot of production's going on. I wasn't, when I started, I was in Miami. And I remember I would have killed for a podcast like this. I mean, killed to have this kind of information back in the 90s. Are you kidding? The closest thing I got was Entourage and Project Greenlight.
This is true. All that is so true. I think we're the same age. Yeah, we're the same Yeah.
Yeah,
Timeline.
we're same vintage, as they say.
Yeah.
The same vintage, as they say.
Yep.
So it's pretty remarkable. But the question I have is, especially as an actor, I'm assuming there was a couple of no's along the way. How did you, or did you not get any no's?
Oh no, my gosh, it was all no's.
I was
I
about to
mean,
say.
I drove to Austin. I had bartended one night, and my agent was like, she was just sending me on stuff, and God bless her soul, she was doing the best she could. And I left at 4 a.m. from the bar, drove to Austin, Texas. I had an 8 a.m. call time. I walked in, and I was the only non-Asian male in the room, and there was like 50 in there. It was for a Dell commercial. And she didn't read the notes, and it was basically they were looking for an Asian male for this. And so like I didn't just take no's. So I went and I said, hey, can I still read? Because I was thinking to myself, either I'm not getting this at all, or I'm 100% getting this role. And so I've always looked at it like that. I've always looked at it like there's something on the other side. And the thing is, I mean, you can't learn that stuff in a book. You can't learn how to have thick skin like that, or to just be like, look at yourself in the mirror and be like, I am crazy for doing this, but so is everyone else who has made it before me. They just kept up with the crazy. And so I just kept up. I thought I was going to make it in my 20s when I had a full head of hair and no gray in my beard. But instead I made my first feature when I was 42 years old. And you know what? I'll take it, because I'm making my next one when I'm 45. So that's a pretty good, the windows are getting closer, I think.
Hey, listen, brother, I made my first feature at 41. So and I could have done it. And there's a whole conversation about why I didn't do it before, but yeah, I mean, it's okay. It is what it is. The question I was going to ask you is, how do you keep going? Like when you keep getting the no's, and I think you answered it to a certain extent. Like you had a positive attitude about the whole thing. Just like there's something on the other end. I got to keep going.
Yeah, for me, it's like cinema and film, and just that's why, in the meantime, I make a lot of music videos, and I have to create. I don't know what that is. I wish there was times I would tell my wife, I wish there was a switch I could turn it off. I could turn off the I don't want to create switch. But you know what? I can't, and you just got to deal with it, And luckily, for me, is like having your podcast and your book and people who are putting things out, it's now you can hear it from others, is you're not necessarily failing. You just haven't hit the right stride, or it hasn't, a lot of it is hard work, but a lot of it's luck, a lot of it's timing. And if you're going to make it, you're going to have to measure all those things, and hopefully it all hits at some point,
Right. And it's just this constant, just relentlessness of you have to keep going. Trust me, dude, like I try to quit so many times I tried to quit and I couldn't. I'd always come back to it in one way, shape, or form. And it is the beautiful illness, as I call it. It's an illness that you just can't get rid of. You just can't get rid of it.
I mean, I don't have a film at the Dallas International Film Festival, but I'm there because I have to be around it. I have to sit there and watch all the shorts, and I have to talk to these filmmakers. And I love Q&As. I love film festivals. And so that's one of the reasons I love making films, is like, man, once our last film went all around the world, and I was like, oh, great, another addiction with film. Great. Now I love film festivals. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, I used to go to so many of them. I was I just can't anymore. I'm like exhausted. Right. But I agree. But I feel you, brother. No, I feel you. Especially that first few times you walk the red carpet, you see an audience with your film in it, and then you see other cool films. And have you been to Sundance yet?
I have not been to Sundance. I've been to South by Southwest, but yeah.
Go to Sundance, man. It is a magical experience just to go to Park City and just be there. It's probably one of the most magical. I made a movie there because of that, because it's just such a magical experience as a film festival. Yeah. But anyway,
I think there's that crazy part of me. It's like, I think that I'm going to go because I'm going to go with a film, but maybe I won't. So I'm going to keep hacking at it just for a half a second, and hopefully I can bring one there.
I've heard that a couple of times.
I know.
But just in case, you might want to enjoy it.
Check it out. Yeah.
While you can still go up that hill.
It's true.
Because trust me, it ain't easy, brother.
Yeah, I love it.
In my 30s, it was not easy because you're so damn high up you can't breathe. But that's a whole other conversation.
I love it.
So tell me about your film, The World Won't Break.
Yeah. So This World Won't Break. I was writing several things, and I was trying to find something on Netflix one night. My wife was like, "What are you doing?" I spent like 2 hours trying to find trailers, and she's like, "We haven't even watched anything yet, and it's almost 11." And she goes, "What do you want to see?" And I was like, "Well, I kind of want to see a movie about a country singer who doesn't make it. Like we see the ones of the guy who falls from grace and he gets old, and or we see the young guy who makes it and he sells out the stadium." And I was like, "How about the 40-year-old who doesn't make it? Like, what do you do at that point when you're?" And I was writing it from my own personal struggle. But all my friends here in Dallas, Texas, in Austin, they're all country singers, and I'm into friend rock, which I go to all my friend shows. And I was like, man, I have a friend who one night at a bar, we were having a whiskey, and he was like telling me the exact same thing. He's like, "What do I do?" He's like, "I can't quit because I've just put in 25 years of my life, but I can't really keep going because I'm getting old and it's not happening. And thirdly, what do I do?" He's been a singer-songwriter his whole entire life, and it does pay the bills. But no, it's not on the marquee. He's not selling out the big shows. And I was like, oh, I can write that. Because I was I hustle here as a bartender and also in the photo and video world. So I was like starting to put it all together and realize, well, I got the people, I got the actors from our acting studio. I have all these great locations that I bartend at, and I can start calling on favors. For the last 15, 20 years, I've been in the photo video world and staying late and taking care of things. And so I just started asking for in-kinds, for favors. And so when you see my actual budget, it's like $386,000. But when you take out all the in-kinds, it's $36K. Because I got locations that were $5-6 grand a day. I was getting the main guy who owns Bolt Productions call me one day. He goes, "Hey, I want to help out with your movie." And I was thinking, monetarily with money. And he goes, "Put a list together, and whenever you need that stuff, it's yours." So I had a grip truck. I had all of this stuff, and I had all of these talented people who were sort of in the same boat as me, as they want to create something. Commercial works great to pay your rent and to pay your bills, but it's not feeding that thing inside you. That's not why everyone went to film school. I didn't go to film school. This World Won't Break was my film school. Man, it's insane. So that was the whole premise of how to get started. And I had one guy, he was going to give me $35,000, excuse me. So that was going to be 60 grand-ish. And I was like, we can do this. I can pay everybody just a little bit. We can shoot this, in 15 days. And I drove to go pick up the money. He takes me out to lunch and basically tells me, "No, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to put this money somewhere else." He's like, "Sorry." And this guy's a multimillionaire. And I didn't know what to do. I literally freaked out. I paid for our meal, tried to leave, then realized he drove us there. So I had to ride back in the car with this guy. I get in my car. As I drive off, I throw up because I'm so freaked out, because we're supposed to start in 3 days. I run a red light. I call everyone and I say, "Hey guys, it's off. We're not going to film the movie." And it got quiet. And then one person goes, "Well, I'll see you in a couple of days." And everyone said, "I'll see you in a couple of days, Josh. We have to make this film." And I'd put so much work into it because I didn't have the money for locations, but I would drive every weekend and scout and take pictures of time of day. I would go to thrift stores. I got all the clothes. And whenever we would start shooting, I would actually be the wardrobe guy. There's a car in the movie that is really prominent in the film, and I would have to drive that to set, get an Uber, go back, get the grip truck, drive back, on the way, grab coffee and breakfast stuff and bring snacks. And I had to do that for the entirety of the film. I was sleeping 2 or 3 hours, but man, I was getting to do it. And I don't know what that thing that clicks inside my head. I'm sure other creatives is like, dude, you're on fire. You're at a 10. And there's no stopping you at that point, because it's like that thing, if you stop, you feel like it's all going to go away. So that was how I got it going.
Man, you see, and that's the insanity. It's an insanity that we go through.
Yeah, and then the crazy part, we were going to start 6 months before that, and we had a play that night, and Matthew Posey left the theater. He's one of the leads in the movie, and someone opened up his door and shot in there 6 times and shot him in the face. And so I'm getting phone calls at 3 a.m. of everyone saying, were you with Matt? Are you with Matt? I'm like, what happened? They said, Josh, he's in Baylor. They're not sure if he's going to make it. And it knocked out all but 6 of his teeth. He almost lost his tongue. And he's one of my best friends, and I'm freaked out. But I'm also like, man, I'm never going to be able to create anything. Matt's, he's the creative director of this theater. So that was how it all started. So just the fact that happened and we kept rallying around is pretty insane, because everything after that wasn't shots in the face, but it felt like it at times. It felt like shots in the face of all the things that were falling apart.
It's really interesting because you did a semi-autobiographical film. My first movie was a little bit like that, but the second movie was definitely semi-autobiographical, which was On the Corner of Ego and Desire. And I think all 3 films talk about the same thing, which is not only chasing your dream, but I think as you get older, you start to define success differently. What you define success as a 20-year-old is not how you define success as a 40-year-old. Is that a fair statement?
Oh, 100%.
Right, exactly. So the character in your film, he's like, I'm 40, or that friend of yours at the bar, he's like, I'm 40, it's not working out, but I'm making a living doing some singing and songwriting, but I'm not a huge star. But the question is, do you need to be a huge star?
Right. And that's the point. And the cool thing about it is the guy at the bar who was telling me that story is the guy who plays the lead in my movie. He had never been in a movie before, but his music is I was like, how does the world not hear your music? So it's kind of a little bonus there that I got to put him on the big screen, on the biggest screens. And I was like,
he's great.
Greg's phenomenal. He's phenomenal. So it's kind of like, it was a really cool moment for me and him to be like, we both just did it. That's insane.
Right. We both kind of fulfilled a dream together in a different way. We helped each other fulfill our dreams in a certain way. But I think, and everyone listening, I think it's something that really needs to be asked, because I know a lot of people listening, like yourself and other people, before you made your movie, were figuring out, man, it's not working for me. Man, I'm not making it. I'm not Chris Nolan yet. I'm not David Fincher yet. I'm not Tarantino yet. And I always tell them, like, you're not going to be those guys. Those guys are those guys. You've got to be the best of you that you can be. And at the end of the day, there's only going to be a handful of people who are going to get the opportunity to work in those sandboxes.
Oh, for sure.
It's just numbers. The amount of people who want to do it, and then there's, out of those people who want to do it, how many are really even capable if given the opportunity to do it? You're talking about the top of the top.
Yeah, and I pretty much saw that sandbox and knew I couldn't get in it yet, so I brought my own sand and poured it beside it, and I played like I was playing with these guys in the sandbox, and that can give you a lot of when you're at a film festival and your movie trailer is playing before blockbuster movies, because they'll do that, they'll program things like that,
Sure.
And I was one of the very few people to make a trailer pre going to festivals, like a really good trailer, because we were at the Glasgow Film Festival and our movie played the trailer played before every single event and every single movie, and that alone will keep you going, just seeing that.
Exactly. It's just how you define your success. And if you can make a living doing what you're loving to do, and you really just love the process and not the outcome, that's when because it sounds like you enjoy, I mean, I know we'll go deeper into the headaches of the insanity of this film, but at the end of the day, you enjoyed this process. And did you have an outcome? I mean, we all dream of getting into a big festival, or we get, getting found, or getting, picked out of the crowd, all the 90s stories that we heard. But were you happy? Were you happy at the end of this? Were you like, you know what? I'm good. I'm solid. If it doesn't make $1 billion, I'm okay with that. I'm going to make my next movie. Is that kind of the vibe?
Yeah. I mean, for sure. For me, it was like, I always dream really big. Like I always say, go ahead and practice your Academy Award speech in the mirror, because you never know. And it can give you a little bit of, but in the back of your head that you're crazy and that's insane. So that we our opening red carpet event was actually at the Dallas International Film Festival, and we ended up winning Best Feature. That was our first showing, and then
Nice.
we got into the Australia Film Festival. We got into the Glasgow Film Festival, and I got to travel to all these places, and a lot of the places put us up in really nice places. And so the fact that it was really cool because overseas, a Texas film about a country singer is just like, it's so foreign.
Huge. It's
Huge.
huge. Yeah.
So the Q&As and the people coming up to us, when you play a movie like that here in Dallas, Texas, it's like, well, open the front door, bro. You know what I mean? Over there, it was like Australia, especially. That was a trip for sure. So, and I don't know if we talk about what happened with the film after that, or if we get into that later. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, I can talk about that.
But yeah, you're right, and you see, but that's a different level. That's probably something you didn't expect,
No,
right? You didn't
not
expect
that.
that kind
No.
not that thing. So it's just interesting the way the universe works. That's all. It's just really fascinating how it works. And again, for all the youngins listening, from a couple of old fogies who've been doing this for a few years, you will redefine success for yourself, and it's not giving up on the dream. You always hope and you keep going. But if you just enjoy the process and not attach yourself so much to that's where all the pain comes in, is when you attach your outcome. That you're like, I'm doing this movie to get discovered or to blow up or to make money. You're done. You're done. You got to I love doing what I'm doing, and I don't care what happens at the end. I hope, and let's position ourselves the best we can to be successful. But at the end of the day, it's still just about the process. And it's kind of like a painter that way. Painters generally don't paint to I'm going to sell this for $100 million. Like Van Gogh just painted and never made a dime.
I was telling my wife, I'm going to touch on that. I was telling my wife, we're talking about, she goes, what do you want out of the film besides for it to blow up and the soundtrack to blow up and we become the new once, that's, we win an Academy Award. Sure. But, I said, what I really want is a kid in a German library or an old bookstore to pull off the shelf the This World Won't Break DVD, watch it, and his mind be blown that there's a place like that. It happened, Alex. Someone emailed me and talked about the film he saw in somewhere in northern Canada, this kid, and he talked about this fictional place called Deep Ellum in Dallas, Texas, where this guy plays country music. And he wrote the greatest review. I think he was 16 or 17. And I was like, man, I didn't conjure up the fame and the money, but I conjured up a kid pulling off a DVD in another country. So that was really special to me. I was like, okay, that's a way of me. I feel like I made it, right? I felt like I actually was at our library and I was scanning it to see if anybody checked it out. And it was like, This World Won't Break, and then Thor. And I was like, I'm cool with that. I'm okay with that.
If you remember what you said at the beginning of our conversation, is when your dad saw It's a Wonderful Life and how it made him feel. And you're like, I want to do that. Well, you just succeeded.
Yeah.
I mean, you won. You won.
Yeah.
You won. That was the goal.
100%.
That was the goal you wanted. You wanted to affect people with your work. And you did that not only once, probably multiple times, but that's the one that picked out. So I want people to listen to that it's not always about the Oscar. It's not always, because I've talked to Oscar winners and it's not all it's cracked up to be. Don't get me wrong. We all want one and I wouldn't mind one. I put it right behind me on this. I'd put it right there. It'd be right there.
Of course.
Yeah, exactly.
It'd be funny if that kid's name was Oscar, but it wasn't.
That would be amazing. When you tell the story again, the kid's name's Oscar.
I know.
Yeah.
These are gold tips. Go, yeah. Gold.
But all right, so there was a few other things that happened in this film. Before we get into the really crazy story that happened to you, I always like asking this question: what is the worst day on production, and how did you overcome it? And not pre-production, not post-production. On production. What was that crazy day you thought the whole world was coming crashing down?
I'll tell three real quick. Day one, I'm going into the oldest gymnasium in the world with the oldest owner. It's in Dallas, Texas. The guy's 80. He just turned 90, and I had a monologue for him. And I'm carrying all this gear up. I mean, huge C-stands and rollers and huge lights. And he smokes cigars. And he goes, Josh, come in here. I was like, yeah. He goes, I'm not doing the monologue. And he left. And I was like, what? And he comes back in and he goes, you can still shoot here. I'm just not doing it. And he was the chunk of that scene.
Yeah.
He was the old guy. And so I walked in and I said, here's the deal, Doug. Can you just say this one line, which is a line that you hear 2 more times in the movie? So I had to have that one line. And he looked at me. I said, it'll be a close up. And he goes, I'll do it. And he does the line. And so that was the worst thing that was happening on day 1. And then we irked out of it. Okay. Day 2, I thought it'd be a good idea to have these boat scenes where he's fishing on this lake. Well, I don't really have a huge crew, but we had 3 boats and it was like 90-mile-an-hour winds. And I said, action, and all of our boats go away and they all go in different directions. And I was like, what am I thinking? It's my first feature film. And I'm going to shoot on a lake. I don't know what I'm doing. And there was self-doubt.
Wow.
And all of a sudden, 2 boats come over. And it was a friend of mine. She worked for the rowing team. And she was like, do you guys need help driving some of this around? So she helped out. And the rest of the day was stellar. I guess, the third one would have to be when we had just picked up the new El Camino. Okay. So the day before we shoot, like a week, the El Camino in the car, the engine blew. And I was like, the whole point of this is this guy doesn't have a truck. He has an El Camino, it's old and rusty. We put the word out, like we need a El Camino. What a crazy thing to ask for in the world. And somebody on Facebook said their mom's new husband had one in the garage, but it was old, rusty, and brown. I was like, what? So I haul over there and grab this thing. He gives it to me for the whole entire shoot, just gives me the keys, says, y'all have fun. And as I'm driving down the road, I'm like, dude, I'm batting 1,000, even though I'm kind of whiffing in the first 2 pitches. And then as I'm going up the hill, smoke starts coming out of this El Camino. But it was just the water pump, and we fixed it in the cars in the whole movie. So I could go on and go on and go on.
Every day there was something, I'm sure.
Alex, every single day something was going on, and something happened on our last week and a half of filming. It was perfect. And I mean, I'm telling you, it was like summer camp, and we all had a blast. We were pulling rabbits out of the hat, special effects that we were doing in camera. Everything was happening, and we ended on that high note. But the first half, I mean, it was every single day something was happening that I had to fix on the fly, for sure.
I mean, going back to the lake shots, did you not see Jaws?
Yeah.
Did you not hear what Spielberg said? Don't shoot on the water.
At least listen to Steven, at least, right?
I mean, it's like a funny side story. I was talking to Kevin Reynolds, who did Waterworld, and he called up Steven, and he's like, what should I do? He's like, don't shoot in the ocean. He's like, nah, I'll be fine.
Hey, I got a soft spot in my heart for Waterworld. I love Waterworld.
Listen, Peter, who wrote it, he's a good friend of mine who's on the show, and Kevin was on the show, and it's oddly one of the most successful IPs the Universal's ever had.
Oh, wow.
I didn't know if you know that or not. They've made so much money off of Waterworld.
Oh, well, good for them then. I was feeling bad for a little bit.
No. Everyone always like, oh, Waterworld's like the no. It makes, you know what? I don't know if you've been to Universal Studios in Florida or in LA, but there's a Waterworld ride that's still there.
Oh, whoa.
20 years later, they still are there, and they're still one of the most popular attractions. And they've made so much money with the Waterworld IP. It's insane.
That's another thing. A disaster turns into a profit. I love that story. I love it. That's positivity for me.
Now, you mentioned to me in your email pitch that there's something happened at the Alamo Draft House. What happened to you, sir?
Okay, so making the film was insane. We shot for 26 days.
Oh wow!
Over a year and a half, because I had to keep giving the gear back, and luckily Greg didn't accidentally shave his beard off, or Roxana didn't get pregnant. Like I was walking on thin ice by doing that. I was just every day thankful that we were getting another day, and they always say, like, don't have a lot of locations when you have no money for a film. We shot in 42 locations. That's why it has the grandness of it. But I was only sleeping 3 hours a night. And then when I was given some dailies to some different programmers around, South by Southwest wanted it. This is the previous year, and we were still filming. We still had, half the movie to film. So I was rushing. And my son, who's now 21, he co-edited the film with me. And so he would work on it when I was at work, and I would work on it with him when I got home. And I was still working a full-time job and getting this film. And I was driving back and forth to Austin to getting the color done because it wasn't working out. And I wasn't sleeping. It was a deadline to have the DCP in the hands of the festivals. And it was before, the next morning before 7. Well, I stayed up for like 3 days maybe and got the DCP and the Blu-ray, which was a gift actually from DIF. They provided that. If you got another festival, they would provide you a DCP and a Blu-ray, which was huge. And I'm driving back from Austin. I drop it off in the mailbox for the programmer to upload it. And I eat some breakfast, and my wife goes, "We should go celebrate. Your film is done. You're done. It's locked. It's in a DCP." And so we go to the Alamo Draft House, and we're watching a movie, and I'm like, why are the trailers all vignetted? I couldn't figure out why they were vignetted. And I started to sweat, and for half a second, I didn't know where I was. I didn't know I was in a movie theater. And the lady asked if I wanted a margarita. And I said no. And my wife turned to me like, whoa, he must not be feeling good if he just turned out a margarita. And I stood up. I walked out into the Alamo Draft House parking lot. We're there. It's like a 10:30 showing or 11 a.m. showing because we had just finished. And I'm walking around, and I know I need to sit down, but I can't sit down. And all of a sudden, I can't feel my left hand. And then pain starts going up, and I can't really control it. And I'm walking. So my wife has no idea where I'm at. Well, she follows me in the parking lot. I walk in the Alamo Draft House. I'm on my hands and knees, and I look at the guy, Jorge, who I've known. He's at the front desk, and I'm trying to say, call an ambulance because I'm dying. I mean, this is it. And then my last thought, when I was trying to say ambulance, I realized, well, I'm not going to be in the memorandum. I'm not going to be in memory of in my own film. And I start to pass out, and I go, I think death's pretty peaceful. And I'm out. I wake up, and my wife's over me. She's on the phone. She's called our doctor, and she goes, I could hear, I'm coming back in, like it was just a ringing noise. And she goes, you're having a panic attack. It's not a heart attack. And what happened was all the adrenaline that I had built up over those past month and weeks and the year prior making the film, when I dropped off the DCP, my brain goes, and we're done. And we can't go any farther. We're done. We've completed, job well done. And then my body goes, see ya. And if you look up Wikipedia, a panic attack, it says symptoms, and it says it feels like you're going to die. And I had to go to a functional medicine doctor for a long, long time and build up my immune system. And he said, you just have to take it easy, man, because you will have a heart attack, and it won't be a panic attack. So yeah, I almost died on the Alamo, which would have been a perfect place if you really think about it. I mean, come on, right smack dab in the middle of it too. I was right there.
I mean, if you're watching the movie of your life, Josh, this is pretty it's the point of what is it? The point of not a point of no return, but the all is lost moment in the screenplay. In the movie, you're like, oh, he's made the movie. Wait, he's dying at the movie theater.
Right.
His movie, all is lost. That is you can't. It's so poetic.
Yes, that's how Bob Fosse died. I found out at a premiere. He had worked so hard, and he dropped dead in front of the marquee. I was like,
poetic.
That's poetic for sure.
It's poetic. Well, I'm glad it worked out. That you're still here with us. just so you know, just as a side note, my first film, Broken, I had a panic attack on set.
Oh,
Oh, I had a full blown panic attack that I had to actually go. I'm like, guys, give me a minute. I went to the bathroom and I had to, I'm like, give me like 10 or 15 minutes, guys, set up the lights or something like that. Cause it was so overwhelming to me because I had never done it. It was just something. It was a huge project for me at the time. It was all this stuff. And I literally just started to try to meditate and breathing in and out. And there was nobody there to help me. And I was just like, it sucks, dude. I've had probably 2-3 panic attacks, all based around the film industry.
I had two. One was recently, but the cool thing is I could tell myself, I have a lot of methods now to where I'm like, you're not having a panic attack. You just need to chill out for a little bit. And so it's once you've had it, but man,
it sucks.
If you've never had it. So they say most ambulance rides, people thinking they're having a heart attack, it's a panic attack. And by the time they get them to the hospital, they're like, oh, I think I'm good. Because they give them the IV and they calm them down. But everyone thinks it's a heart attack for sure, or stroke or something. Good Lord.
I mean, that's an amazing story, bro. Well, I'm glad you made it, brother. I'm glad you made it. And that's a warning for all filmmakers. You're still human. And there's a lot of stress, especially when trying to get a movie together and things happen. And how many heart attacks and panic attacks has happened to filmmakers in the course of the last 50 or 100 years?
Yeah, all movies cost something, and it may be your health.
It might be you.
It could be you.
Now, how did you, because you've mentioned a couple times you've read my book. How did you decide to go with distribution?
So look, the timing of your book was great because we were coming back from Scotland with the movie, the Glasgow Film Festival, and things were starting to really happen with the buzz of the film. And funny enough, we were talking to Alamo Drafthouse, and they were going to put it in all the Alamo Drafthouses, like a little short deal, and have Greg play and we could sell the merchandise, the soundtrack. So I was working that out when we were in Scotland. I'm on the airplane, and we had gotten word that South by Southwest, even though we weren't in the competition, they were like, maybe we can work something out where you can premiere it in Austin. You can do a festival thing. And all of our phones went off and said South by Southwest cancels. This was like early COVID. And by the time we landed, everything, all the other film festivals we were a part of, everything else shut down. So I'm back to, in theaters. Alamo Drafthouse especially closed its doors. And so it was like, oh, I just made a movie. What do I do with this? And I am still thankful that we were able to at least do that huge run of festivals, get the movie in the can, because I knew a lot of friends who were shooting a film that had kids in it, the age of 10, and then COVID hit. Dude, gone. Because those kids, they don't look the same. They have half a movie in a can. It breaks my heart to think about it. A lot of people lost a lot of things. We were very lucky that we still walked away, So I'm depressed, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to make the DVD myself. And so I figured out how to do all that. I told people, if you want a signed autograph, I'm only doing 100. If you want a signed autograph of the DVD, it's $30, and we threw in some stickers. We sold out like that. $3,000. I have $3,000. I make 1,000 DVDs. So they're in my garage, and I'm like, well, what do I do with this? And I did the whole stuff before and all the different menus. And because of COVID and because of so many film festivals that shut down that didn't have films come out, they're cut in half. What movies are for distribution? Content. Everyone's at home. Everyone needs to be watching something. And people are running out of content. Well, my phone starts to blow up, literally. And I was talking to a lot of different distribution companies. I love how you talk the truth about how some of these are predatory. And Alex, it was so sickening, especially I've almost died, I'm not going to give you my film. I'm not going to give you this. It was 40 45% for 20 years. No, yeah.
Oh.
And then like, but we're going to redo your posters. I don't know if you've seen our poster. Our guy who did our poster did a phenomenal job.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
And it's like they wanted to redo the poster, redo the trailer, and they just wanted to spend the money that would be coming in. And then we got a phone call for the one that we went with, who was can I say their name on that?
It's up to you.
Yeah. So this little company called Passion River Films reached out, and I looked them up, and they worked with libraries. I was like, okay, they don't really do theatrical, but they were like, you can keep your theatrical, and you keep DVD rights, and all these things. And I was like, this sounds too good to be true. So I reached out to Ben and Jim Cummins over at Vanishing Angle, and Ben Wasner, I think is Ben's name. I could be saying that wrong. Mm-hmm. I said, hey, do you know about Passion River? And they go, and Jim was like, yeah, Thunder Road, they have Amazon and DVD sales. We signed out with them. He goes, they're phenomenal. And they'll put it in every library in North America, including Canada and the US. And so they sent over the paperwork, and they like, we love the trailer. And it was a 2-year deal. I'll say it. It was a 2-year deal for 20%. I mean, and they're gonna put it into every library, and they're gonna buy all the DVDs that I had. They said, we'll sell those for you, and we'll take a percentage by putting them into libraries. And so some libraries, if it's a big enough metroplex, they'll buy 10, 15. And so then they set us up. It worked so well with us, and they put us through. Obviously, we did the TVOD, the transactional. And then I still had theatrical rights. So I was going around once COVID was over with, and we're selling out here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, 600-seat theaters. And that's just for us. And then they said, hey, there's this new thing called Tubi. He goes, and they're pretty new. This is 2020, the beginning of 2020, and Tubi needed content, and they loved our runtime. They loved that it was country music, and that they could advertise with like Chevy, Miller Lite, Bud Light,
Wrangler.
It's perfect. So as of now, besides the DVD sales, which sounds crazy, Tubi's right there.
Oh yeah.
You know, I mean, and you talk about it on the show, and you know, I remember like I always felt like I was chasing daylight when you would talk on the show, because you were speaking the truth. And then a month later, you know, Tug is gone. I'm like, ugh, you know, that was my plan. And it's just like something pops and something goes away. And you were talking about AVOD, and I remember you talking about it, and I was like, what? Advertising, video on demand? I feel like I'm going to make it on Amazon and iTunes. And dude, iTunes is the lowest.
Oh, it's horrible.
You know, we got some good Vimeo stuff, because like in Australia, that's one of their platforms is Vimeo for certain films that aren't rated. And yeah, so I 100% as of today own the film VOD, DVD, theatrical. I own 100% of the rights of the film.
That's amazing.
And we had a great, probably the best kind of run you can do. Like right now it's on Amazon Prime for free, and we're going to keep it on there because it's a nice calling card, because we're making our new film for people to like go watch that and watch it for free. And then once the next film will happen, I'll take that down, and you can rent it. And then I'll start to build a collection, you know, Blu-ray, DVD, and have it through our own website.
Dude, I'm so happy that the book helped you with that, and the show helped you with a lot of this stuff that you're talking
100%.
about.
I always tell people the three things that if you're a filmmaker, or if you want to be a filmmaker, or if you're needing to go level up in a different area, the 3 books that you have to have on your shelf is Indie Film House, Filmtrepreneur, Rebel Without a Crew, and then I really like Dan's book, The Submersive Guide to Filmmaking.
Dan
And FYI, people should get your audiobook, because it's really stellar. It was really a great listen to. And for some reason, I learned a lot of new things. I just re-listened to it on a drive, and I was like, oh, that's really solid if you listen to it. Because sometimes I read and I kind of blank out. So I listened to it and then went back and thumbnailed some stuff in your book for the next film that's coming up that I didn't do in the last one.
And then the audiobook too also has extra stuff that I just stop in the middle, and I'll just start like, hey, real quick.
Oh yeah, it's great. It's like Gary Vee. I love it.
That's where I got it from. Gary did it. I was I listen
Oh,
to
it's
Gary Vee's
brilliant.
books. I'm like, oh, I'm doing that when I have when I do an audiobook. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's brilliant. It's brilliant.
It's great. No, I'm so happy that that is the case, and that's a real great success story in distribution because I'm sure you were getting predatory stuff
Oh,
left and right and all over the place.
making this it's really gross, and it's for a filmmaker. I think if I wouldn't have almost died, I would have just been exhausted enough to give it away.
Oh yeah.
And I think what happened was I was exhausted. I almost died. Then I was pissed. And I was like, I'm taking this thing. I'm alive again.
I've come back.
I've come back. And I will sell these DVDs.
I will say that's genius. That's really a genius way of looking about it. Yeah, libraries are a big thing that people don't understand. Also cruise lines and airlines too for certain movies. You can get it. There's so many
I know.
revenue streams.
I heard your airline.
Yeah, it's so many revenue streams that you can create and go after distributors who just focus on those kind of things and getting you into those places.
Yeah, and because of your show, someone was talking about WeFunder, and so we're going that route for the next film, and then we got Film Independent to support us as a 5013C. People can do tax write-offs, so it's like I've learned so much in the past, and then like with your show and having people on, I'll listen to an hour, and then like 5 minutes, someone says something that like changes the trajectory of the film, of the next film. I'm listening to it. I'm like, I get it. I've been there, and then I haven't been there. Ooh, I write that down, and then it really, there's so many things at our fingertips that I think, if people really want to do it, you can do it. It's out there for you.
And so the film has been a financial success for you.
I mean, like I said, I'm not rich and famous, but we're in the black.
You're in the black. You've made your money back. You made your money back.
Yeah, I mean, like
you are in the top 1%,
Yeah.
1% of filmmakers.
And the cool thing about it also is like I still get checks, and it pays for all the stuff that we have on websites. It pays for our CPA, our LLC. It's like, the film still, and once we get the next film made, we're really going to push This World Won't Break again, because a lot of people didn't get to see it,
right?
Because of just all the content, and we can repackage that. It's forever,
Yeah, I mean, you could put that movie out, right? You could re-release it right now, and
we're doing Blu-ray and then vinyl. We're on a waiting list for a vinyl record, so we're gonna package it with the Blu-ray, because you said on one of the beginning of one of your shows, you says the niches is in the riches.
The riches are in the niches.
Yeah.
In the niches. Yeah, and you have that you're supporting.
Yeah, and then the next film's about an Orthodox monk on the coast of Texas, so it doesn't get more niche than that.
Yes, the name of that one is Tonto Cristo, right?
Yeah, El Tonto Por Cristo.
Yes, so that means basically translated, if I am Latino, so the fool for Christ, essentially.
Yes, that's exactly right. It's like it's not a Robert Eggers style film. It's not scary, but it's going to have that vibe. It'll have a neat. We're shooting in black and white. I'm breaking all the rules. I've already broken rules, so we're shooting in 16:1 and black and white.
But you're shooting color and taking the color. I mean, the black and white later, right? Or are you shooting black and white?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Keep the color just in case.
Oh, believe me. Yeah. Technology. We're using the newest red, and it's like with this technology, if we get in there, we're like, uh-oh. It's like, okay.
Just keep the color for distribution, just in case. They're like, we love the film, but you shot it in black and white, and I can't sell it. And you've got no stars in it, so it's going to be a tough sell. Then you're like, well, you know what? I could just turn that color right back on for you.
Yeah.
If that's what it takes.
We got some B-list. We have B-list stars this time.
Good. Yeah. Always get a face, man. Always get a face if you can. Josh, man, I appreciate you coming on the show, man, telling us your insane story. I'll ask you a few questions. I ask all my guests.
Cool.
What advice would you give a filmmaker trying to break into the business today?
I think it's really quickly, it's like a Chinese parable that I once heard about a man. They had a beet farm, and the beets all dried up, and the kid was like, what are we going to do? We're ruined. And the father was like, maybe and maybe not. And then all of a sudden, all these horses came up the hill, and he was like, oh my gosh, we're going to be rich. And his father said, maybe, maybe not. We don't know. Well, as he was trying to train the horses broke his leg, both legs. And his son said, now I'm crippled. This is the worst thing to ever happen. And his father said, maybe, maybe not. And then the Chinese army came over the hill. They said, we need your son for war. And he said, he can't, he's crippled. And they left, and all those men got slaughtered. So basically, when you're making an indie film and your transmission blows up or someone gets shot in the face, it's not the end of the world. It's not.
I mean,
maybe not.
The guy who got shot in the face, it could very definitely be the end of the world.
Oh, or me at Alamo Drafthouse for sure. Yeah.
But I've heard that parable. Yeah. It's a wonderful parable. What is the lesson that took you the longest to learn, whether in the film business or in life?
Everyone always says this, and it's the truth, is like the whole Calvary's Not Showing Up by Mark Duplass. But I'll take it one step further and say, like, sometimes you're going to have to do everything because it's not going to be just yours until maybe one day, you are Wes Anderson and you can tell someone what color pink you want. But right now, just do it yourself. And if you don't find joy in that, this is not for you.
Mm-hmm. And 3 of your favorite films of all time.
Oh, man. I forgot about this one. I'm going to say Badlands.
Yeah.
I'm going to say It's a Wonderful Life. Now I'm George Bailey at my age. I feel like I'm George Bailey. And number 3 is a tie because it's Point Break and Karate Kid.
I mean,
because those films like shouldn't have worked, and they did. And I love rewatching them. I just saw Point Break here in Dallas on 35 millimeter, and it was gorgeous.
And I'm assuming you've seen Cobra Kai.
Oh yes,
of course. I mean, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Brother man, where can people find out more about you, your films, and where they can watch your movies?
Yeah. You can go to joshdavidjordan.com, and that's going to have everything about the new film. If you want to invest, or if you want to throw money our way, it'll have This World Won't Break, where you can buy that, and then all my links. I'm on Instagram and Twitter. Because when the pandemic happened, someone hacked my Instagram and Facebook account, and they deleted them all. So I just restarted them. That really stinks. So go there, follow me there, and that's it.
Brother, I appreciate the story. I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate all the support for what I do all these years. And I'm glad you made it. I'm glad you're alive, that this movie didn't kill you, though it did try.
Yeah.
But I appreciate you, brother. Thanks again, man.
Welcome to Texas, and I hope I see you in Austin, man.